On July 15th, Israel attacked Syria. 3 civilians were killed and 34 were injured in Damascus. This attack was also recorded through Syria TV. Israel also attacked numerous locations in Suwaida and Dara, where a lot of the civilian unrest is currently. These actions directly conflicted with a ceasefire agreement. Israel says its attacks are predicated on protecting the Druze community, but it's Israel, so obviously it's more complicated than that. For context, the Druze are a religious and ethnic group that started in about the 11th century. There's currently about 1 million Druze living in Syria and Lebanon primarily. About 150,000 Druze live in Israel. The Druze have a long and complicated history in the Middle East involving oppression. Suwaida, though it's in Syrian territory, has always been governed by the Druze and the Bedouin tribal communities. Generally, disputes between the two are expected to be resolved by tribal elders. On July 11th, a Bedouin tribesman attacked a Druze vegetable truck and stole about 7 million Syrian pounds, which led to further conflicts. Negotiations between the two were failing, so on July 14th, the Syrian government deployed forces to try and separate the two groups. This decision violated an agreement between the Druze and the Syrian government, and this escalated things further. And this is also evidently what led to Israel attacking Damascus. I wasn't able to find any Druze opinions on the attacks, but generally the Druze have had a diplomatic approach to the new Syrian government, so I'd speculate that they wouldn't want to have more attacks and bombings. Syria is also in the midst of recovering from a civil war that started in 2012. Syria had been under the rule of the Assad regime since the 1970s. The Assad regime was known for authoritarianism, state-sponsored violence, and also a state-dominated economy that only served wealthy capitalists. By September 2011, rebel groups were constantly fighting with governmental troops. By 2013, rebel groups had control over a significant amount of territory. These groups were also being funded by Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United States. The Syrian government was being funded by Iran and Hezbollah. In 2018, there's notable involvement from Russia and Turkey, who supported the Syrian government and the rebels respectively. There's a conflict surrounding Idlib, the last remaining rebel outpost at the time, but this was eventually taken over. By 2023, the rebel groups had generally been subdued and the Assad government was more comfortably in control. On November 27, 2024, Operation Deterred Aggression was launched. This was basically an insurrection launched by a coalition of armed opposition groups. By December 8th, they had reached Damascus and they had forced Bashar al-Assad to flee to Russia. This put the rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham in control of the Syrian government. This was a then designated terrorist group that was an offshoot of al-Qaeda. This terrorist designation was recently removed. During the insurrection, Israel took control of Syrian land along its southern border, and it's currently trying to keep Syrian forces from recapturing the area. This territory also just happens to be close to Suwaida, giving Israel another reason to attack Syrian forces trying to enter the region. By January 31st, HTS leader Ahmed al-Shara was named de facto leader of Syria. He had a goal of rewriting the legislative framework of Syria and having a democratic election in up to 4 years. The current approval rating of Ahmed is at 81%, despite having to deal with a lot of very complicated issues. Ahmed has also pledged to defend the Druze people. Israel's aggressive actions during this extremely delicate time in Syria is based on dismantling Syria's new sovereignty, and Israel's attacks on Syria have been met with an extremely vitriolic national response. Syria has obviously condemned the attacks. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also condemned the attacks. Turkey's foreign ministry has called the attacks an act of sabotage. Iran has said the attack was just too predictable. And even Russia, allied to the former leader of Syria, has condemned the attacks and called it extremely concerning. Israel is showing every day how violent it is. In the past month, Israel has attacked Iran, Lebanon, Syria, and obviously it's committing a genocide in Gaza and the West Bank. The rest of the world is already well aware of this. The US is the only nation that continues to defend and fund Israel's heinous actions.